All right, thank you very much. My name is Connie Quach, and I am the VP of Products at Condati, and I'm also a founder of Condati. I'm here to talk about how AI analytics can improve your marketing campaign. So Condati was actually formed about a year ago. I'm one of the founders, and we basically sought out a mission to see if machine learning and data science can actually help marketing people. And so with that, in the last year as a product person, I've been tasked to speak to the market to understand, first of all, what the problems are, and as a product manager, figure out what problems I should be solving from a machine learning and data science perspective. And so with that, I'm hoping that this presentation will give you some insights of what I've learned in the past year after speaking to a lot of different companies in the digital marketing space, but also showcase some examples of what we actually did with the data and then applied machine learning and data science around that data. So with that, I'll go ahead and start. So we all kind of know what AI is about. Hollywood has obviously given us Westworld. So we're not quite there yet. We do have AI, but it doesn't do logic or decision making. But what it can do is process a lot of information to give us more information so we can build decisions on. What we also know from a CIO's perspective is that, wow, AI, it costs a lot of money. It requires full-time employees, so a team of data scientists to do this stuff, years of waiting with not getting too much, plus, it's a science project with really no ROI. So I wanted to actually take a moment to level set with you from this particular person. I'm going to probably destroy his name, Chamath Palihapitiya. He's the founder and CEO of Social Capital. He's also the owner of the Golden State Warriors, the basketball team. And I think he describes AI in 2 minutes what it is. Oh.
Well, the time has come. There is 1,000 robots outside who are about to replace us. You've probably heard that over and over and over again and have wondered to yourself, what does that actually mean? And when people say these things, when they talk about replacing human capital with functional technical capital, they talk about artificial intelligence. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
So basically what he's saying is that there's inference and collecting all of the data and processing all of that data to then start building predictions and models. And from there, the AI machine learning will then start spitting out feedback, start spitting out information on what is possible. And so therefore, for us, we can then make decisions upon those things. And so this is a really good snippet. Like I said, I wish I had the speaker. I didn't realize it. But it's a really good 2-minute snippet of what he thinks, in layman's terms, what AI is today. And so with that, I'm going to just kind of jump ahead. So why now? Well, from Bayes to Big Bang. Well, right now, machine learning and data science is now becoming affordable. It's affordable in the perspective of what was once used for academia 100 years ago with mathematical calculations, algorithms that were really used back in the day for moonshot ideas, Department of Defense ideas, where they're applying this machine learning. It is now relevant for us to actually use it. We can actually apply some of the things that they're doing 100 years ago into modern day applications. And for us, we're doing it for marketing. And so part of it is, being relevant, but it's also becoming affordable. And part of that affordability is actually from cloud services. I mean, it's so cheap these days with Amazon and Google storing that data. I mean, storing that data is amazingly inexpensive, and you get charged by per second compute costs. So to have all of these technologies starting to align, it's becoming easy for us to collect the data and start processing that data. And so, so for us, we are actually applying machine learning on marketing information. And what we're doing at Condati is specifically, we're applying machine learning on campaign data. so marketing data. And we're actually using a product, well, an open source tool called Facebook Profit. And so I actually have to read this because I'm not a data scientist by any stretch of the means. But Facebook Profit is an algorithm that uses Bayesian-based curve fitting method to forecast the time series data. So in layman's terms, what that really all means is that we're actually gathering all of that information from our customers, specifically on their most important marketing data sources. So analytics, their email information, advertising information. We're starting to pull that together and do time series. And what this particular open source tool is using is applying seasonality towards that. So as marketers, we have to figure out what our customer behaviors are, purchasing behavior. And so with all of that data, using this particular algorithm, we can now forecast and model the customer purchasing behavior. We can start putting anomalies on certain aspects of the season, of the year. If there are Black Friday, Cyber Monday, things that are kind of happening, we can actually start detecting those particular instances. And so we felt that this particular open source tool, forecasting tool, was the best for us and our customers. And so I wanted to give you an example of what we actually did for one of our customers who is a retailer. So he came to us with the question of, what is the expected revenue projection for me for next year? So this particular retailer is a company that sells dancewear to girls. And typically the customer is parents, right? So they're buying dancewear for their kids. And so one of the things that we did was we started taking all of their data sets. So specifically, their system of record is Google Analytics. They also advertise on Google AdWords, Bing, DoubleClick, and they also use email. So all of those particular data sources, we actually started collecting. And now we're actually applying those models that I was just talking to you about, so Facebook Profit. So from there, we were able to plot the e-tailer's revenue from a long-term trend perspective. So we went all the way back to 2016, and then we got up to the present day of 2020. Well, this one says 2017, but we were able to plot using the algorithms to say, okay, so how do you think they're going to do? So right off the bat, their long-term trend to present looks like it's going to be a declining market for them, right? It's not looking good. And quite frankly, in the dancewear, there's a lot of competition. Amazon's coming in, so there's a lot of activity there. So they have to kind of stand above the crowd. So further, we decided to take the same data, the same information, using, again, Facebook Profit, to look at the weekly seasonality cycle. So every company, whatever you're doing, you have some weekly cycle, right? That your customers are coming in, they're making purchases, and then therefore, you can determine what's the best time to send out an email, to do activity, to spend money on advertising. So for this particular customer, so on Sunday, they start their peak. So parents are now getting ready for the week. They're, ready to make some purchases. Going into Monday, they need to buy stuff for the recitals or whatever. And then slowly during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it drops Friday. So you would expect that parents aren't really shopping for their kids towards the end of the week because you hope that they're maybe going out to dinner with their family. So this is their weekly cycle throughout the year, and that's how it looks like. We then plotted their entire year. So again, every company has a signature seasonality, right? So what we did is, again, taking that same set of data, and we were able to now say, okay, how did they do every day last year throughout the year? So we plotted 365 days, and this is their signature seasonality. So what we do know is that in January, they have a peak, right? So right after the holidays, the dance is starting to happen. I guess recitals kind of start happening during that time. Going into spring, things are starting to, start faltering, going lower. There's a lull in the summer, so not much activity. Then it kind of picks us up in the fall, and then Black Friday, Cyber Monday happens. That's the holiday season, and then it drops back into December where there's no revenue activity. So with this type of information, the marketer or the person that's kind of running the business and all of the activities can now say, okay, you know what? I'm going to spend, if I spend little bit more on the January and December or November timeframe, my revenue might pick up just a little bit more. But if I do August, even though if I'm going to be spending a whole lot more, there might not be that much of a return. So this allows us to kind of figure out, okay, how in general should we be targeting our customers? So now this is the fun part. We were able to now put all those models together and actually forecast what it's going to look like going into the new year. So what you're seeing here is data that is picked up from actual data and then the predicted data. And we were able to model in the blue shaded line or the bar that you kind of see in the background is what we call the band of confidence. It's where if the actuals kind of fall in between that band of confidence, that means that things are normal. However, you see that orange line up on top there that kind of falls above. In that perspective, for them, that's an anomaly. But it's a positive anomaly because they did actually better than expected. And so we were able to plot the actuals and then further forecast what it's going to look like. So if things drop below or above the band, a trigger would happen, and therefore they can actually go dig deeper on seeing, okay, what actually happened. So for them, when they saw this particular visualization, they actually dug deeper into that February timeline and then actually looked at their sales, what kind of marketing activities happened there, because they want to replicate again, because obviously it's much better than they thought. So that's an example of how we kind of put things together using the data sets, and then from there analyzing that information. So one of the other things, as I mentioned to you before, when we first started working with this e-tailer and when we did the long-term trend, one of the things that they saw was a downward sloping projection. So they asked us, okay, so what if we do nothing? Like what if we just do status quo? How does our revenue look? And so we did that. That's the red line. So this was an example of a what if analysis. So if they did nothing and they just kept on doing what they were doing, not making any changes to their marketing activities, still spend the way they spend, their revenue trajectory would still continue to go down. However, they did not want that, obviously, and they wanted to do something about it. So we basically worked with them to build out strategies that can alter their outcome. And so this is where the machine learning starts happening again, right? So we're like, okay, so what if they launched a new product line? In this case, they actually did. They launched a new product line, which is basically they decided that dancewears needed an adjacent market, so they went into athletic leisure. And they felt like that was an adjacent market. So they launched that particular new product line around the February timeframe. And so you can kind of see that, in that area, it's still kind of going down south, but then all of a sudden they ramped up their advertising and started going back up, and that's the orange line. Now we did this model for them, they didn't want it on a weekly basis, they wanted to do it on a monthly basis. So we were able to actually output this type of model on a monthly basis for them, and so that model will continue to change as activities would change. So then they can see how well or not they are doing. And so that's the power of having machine learning and analytics at your fingertips, because again, part of it is the challenges of collecting all of that data, but once you have it and once it's continually streaming, the activities that you're doing can impact the next month or the next week very quickly. And so in this case, they did really well with the new product launch, and we were able to kind of continue to track their progress. So what is the current reality? Well, machine learning is really good at taking a set of data, crunching it very fast, faster than us humans, and coming up with new and insightful information and insights. And so, but for us, although it's all great, the state of the marketing analytics is that, quite frankly, less than 3% of the marketing data is ever seen. Fewer than 5% of the marketing analytics insights are ever acted upon, which number two is true because of number one, there's a lack of confidence. It's hard, right? It's hard to collect all that information and then expect that, as marketers, putting data science and machine learning on it. It's not easy. So, and part of it is because data silos are pervasive. This is an interesting infographic. I'm sure you guys seen this MarTech infographic. But over the course of 8 years, us marketers have been faced with, in 2011, maybe 150 tools that we could use to collect information, to automate our process, to operate our marketing. But in the last 8 years, we've now expanded to over 7,000 different tools for us to pick and choose from, all collecting that data. And of course, each of the tools that you're using are in separate data silos. And so one of our e-commerce customers basically said that they have more data silos they can even count, and they just don't have the visibility or really the resources to put everything together to actually find these insights. And so they're flying blind. But we can overcome these challenges, and like I said, with the onset of all this new technology and the price of compute and everything going down, it is possible. So our mission at Condotti is to help provide and unify these data assets and start harmonizing that information so that us marketers can, instead of data wrangling, actually figure out what is going on and implement strategies that will impact the bottom line. So to us, modern marketing AI, what I consider that definition is, it's really augmented human intelligence, right? It's really the number crunching plus the human experience. And we know our customers the best. We know our market. And with the combination of our experience and the combination of number crunching, we can then put it together to make smarter decisions. And so why bother? Well, I think we're all here. We all know why. We've been tasked to accelerate revenue and reduce cost. Number one and number two KPI, right? And so my question to you guys is, what if you had faster and more accurate information? Could you make better decisions? And what if you had the opportunity to make decisions at the time that you have that information and actually make adjustments so that you're not waiting a year or a week or a month to make those adjustments? What if you had it right now? And like I said, the fact is there's a lot of cloud-based data science solutions that are an order of magnitude less expensive these days than it was 20, 30, 100 years ago. Which is kind of nice. So my last example, I know, I'm kind of like, need to talk it through, so I'm hoping that you guys are following along. So this question comes from, is in the higher education space. They're a university in Southern California, and you would be surprised on how much money they spend on digital marketing. It's actually pretty amazing. So the university has 5 different colleges, and each of the colleges operate in its own marketing silo, right? So sometimes the College of Business is bidding against the primary college because each have their marketing department. So one of the things that they wanted us to find out is, what is the forecast for generating new users, and in this prospective students, right, for the remaining year based on my current activity. So what we did was, again, kind of similar to what I did before, when I was showing you about using those algorithms and models, we actually did a forecast on their new users. We started back in 2017, and then we actually started predicting all the way through 2019 based on what their current activity is. And so what we found is that in May of 2018, there was an anomaly in their activity. Something happened here that caused it to fall out of band. And so we dug in a little bit deeper. And so what we did was we actually looked at 4 different channels. And so these particular channels are display advertising, paid search, direct, and social. And so we looked at year over year of how they did last year compared to this year. And so what we see is there's some dramatic differences from last year to this year. So something happened within the College of Business that impacted this particular chart. And so just to kind of give you further, we looked at display, and this is again display advertising. So the dotted line was last year. So they did something to attract a lot of new users last year. Obviously, they must have spent a lot of money to attract the new users. But this year, they did not, right? And so we're like, okay, so then what exactly happened? So from there, we decided, well, let's look at their advertising spend, right? Let's see what exactly happened on their advertising spend, because maybe that will kind of trigger, because typically, if you spend more, you might get more users. And so in this case, last year, which is the dotted line again, they spent dramatically more. So this is a College of Business. They just wanted to see what was going on. And then this year, they really dropped their spend, which then, in some cases, the hypothesis is, well, if you drop your ad spend, then, from a conversion perspective, if you did convert at the end, so if they spent money or they didn't spend money, they're still getting X number of users, in this case, prospective students, and then you go down the funnel, and then at the end, they are paying students. They actually signed up. That would be a great thing. They lowered advertising cost, conversion is still high, which is great. But the offside of it is, what if it didn't happen? They still dropped in advertising, and there was no new users, or conversion didn't really happen. And so we were looking at this and we're like, okay, so they basically had a change in strategy, clearly. And for the university marketing department, they were not aware of any of this stuff. So the visibility wasn't there, right? And then so we then further looked into the individual campaigns. So this was the MBA program, and the blue shaded is all the other colleges combined and their spend activity. So clearly, all the other colleges were spending quite a bit of money, and they did not. And now you can kind of see the number of new users that just dropped dramatically in that May timeframe that I showed you the anomaly was. And so in general, they were just, okay, well, they must have had something going on. And so for the creative marketing department, which is the university marketing department, now they know like something. In general, they're not aligned. They're definitely not aligned on their whole strategy. So what we did from here is then we updated their forecast, right, based on the new data that we found, and we readjusted. Basically, those peaks are now lower than what was expected. And so now, based on their activity of ad spend, we can see that they're not going to get as many new users as what they were last year. And so, and again, the part that we haven't solved in this particular use case is the conversion. So we haven't connected their Salesforce information to figure out the conversion. So that's our next step after this, to actually see if ad spend did lower and they did have a high convert, then that strategy worked, right? But if we don't, then that's where, somebody's going to probably get fired. So what's the results, right? It's visibility, context, and transparency. The better strategy is you'll have better strategy once you have the data, you see the models, and you see the forecast. It eliminates rote tasks. one of the things that we did for both of the companies that we're working with, it eliminates spreadsheet hell. I don't know about you guys, but you know, we're actually working with a company called CBSI Interactive, and it's all about media buys, and it's all about spreadsheets. I mean, the number of spreadsheets that's connected to spreadsheets and spreadsheets opening up different dashboards and then I mean, really? Like that, spreadsheets was invented in 1980. Before, you know, it's like, no. So, so our mission is to eliminate rote tasks. And really, it's an art and a science, right? It's the human experience that brings all of this together. And so as marketers, we're all about, you know, driving results, creating demand, but we're now expected to have a data science degree and a machine learning degree and mathematics degree to kind of couple all that along with data wrangling. And so it's a lot to ask. So, but for us, you know, that's our mission, is to help solve that problem. And by the way, you know, marketing is not going to be replaced by robots. So that is not the case. So our path with our customers, we collect data from every marketing data source, so whatever most important to them. We start blending that data into a unified data asset. We then apply advanced data science and machine learning algorithms so that we can predict, analyze, and forecast. And then from there, we wrap every marketing campaign into some type of anomaly detection, so that having the ability to watch and get alerted. I mean, I would rather send you an alert so that you can go to the problem versus you just kind of watching it and seeing maybe I'll find something, right? So our mission is to make it very easy for you guys to get to the problem really quick. And of course, sharing the information through visualizations, reports, and alerts. And then once you have that, now you have the ability to optimize. Now you can do the fun stuff, right? Of figuring out how to make better decisions, how to make your campaigns more effective. And so this is our path with our customers. And there is a path for everyone. My question to you guys is, what's your path? That's what I have.